Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, where we delve deep into the lives of our successful guests to learn the secrets of thriving to flourish abundantly in all areas of life. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. My guest today is the Chief Investment Officer and the co-founder of Spartan Investment Group. He has organized over $250 million of private equity for Spartan's projects. He is responsible for investor relationships and capital raises. He is also an experienced commercial airline pilot. Welcome to the show, Ryan Gibson.
Pleased to have you here, Ryan, and thank you for coming on our show.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Alan.
Let's get to know the real Ryan. Let's start by stepping back into your childhood. If you could share with us a memorable experience from your childhood that, as you look back on it, you would consider it to be a formative experience that has really led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I would say probably, coaches have been probably the best thing. And, just having, a good rowing coach that I was on a crew team that helped me kind of formulate, what it's like to be a champion and win races and push our team and our crew to be really the best we can be and holding us accountable. And that happened early on in high school and as early on as ninth grade. And I think that really, it kind of helped me kind of come together and grow a lot when he started really pushing us to do the best we can and put as much effort as we can into accomplishing something. And we won many races and we lost many races. And I think having that experience of winning and losing and sort of how to behave when those things happen really helped mold, being successful later on.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in just outside of Detroit in White Lake, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because rowing isn't really a sport that you see much of out in the West there, is it? I've never heard of it out there.
Yeah, now I'm in Seattle, and it's pretty big out here. I mean, University of Washington. Really? Yeah, University of Washington is pretty much the dominant force. Sometimes worldwide and nationwide for sure. So
I did not know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear it's a growing sport. It's an interesting sport. Well, you talked about the process of winning and losing and how important that actually learning how to lose was. So talk to us about those losing experiences and how those came to be formative experiences.
Well, it starts with the first season, which we won everything, and by a lot. And it, you don't really learn a whole lot when you just win, because you don't have the disappointment debriefings, you don't have the lessons to learn, you don't have the striving to get better on the next one. You get the taste of winning, which is a good feeling and exciting, but you don't get the disappointment of going back through the race and thinking about all the things that went wrong and what you can do to get better. And so it was kind of interesting. Freshman year was a lot of winning, and then sophomore year was tons of losing until the very last race of the season, which we won. And I think that was kind of showing, kind of learning all year, and having it end on a good note was very rewarding. And then kind of having the humility of losing a lot and winning a lot, knowing that you should never take something for granted, and everything's going to be, a race to the end, no matter what, no matter who it is. So, give it your best effort no matter what. I think that was really an important takeaway.
Well, going through a losing season like that, was it new team members, a new coach? What happened to you?
It was mostly just rowing up at a higher level, so it was, as a freshman, you're rowing against freshmen, but as sophomores, in your sophomore year, rowing against higher competition. And,
Okay.
a bit sophomoric in that you're learning a valuable lesson in maturity, right? I mean,
Right.
you're going up, you're not in the freshman world anymore. So you're getting that beat down experience, so to speak, of the varsity teams. So that really helped you grow quite a bit.
So how did you and how did the coach keep you and the team motivated through what was essentially an entire losing season?
Focusing on self-improvement. It's, you're here. How do you get, kind of focusing on competing against yourself to be better every day? Extensive, record keeping of what your scores were at the previous practice to now. It's like, okay, last week you did the same test and you got this score, and this week you improved it by a little bit, and just really turning the competition to yourself, which is what you can control, right? And just really kind of incrementally showing how you're progressing as an individual, or the boat is progressing. He set up, points on the lake where we rode as a boat, and we saw how fast we went, between points, and we could measure ourselves getting faster. So we knew that we were getting better, even though we may be losing that weekend. We knew that, as a crew, we were getting better performance, week by week.
Well, it sounds like to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like your coach was helping you to learn that it's the game that's important, not necessarily the winning. And also, it sounds to me like he was teaching you that the best person to be competing against is yourself, and
Yep.
and not looking out there at the world and comparing yourself to other people all the time.
Yeah,
Is that right?
that's right. And,
Yeah.
I think it's, there's always, you can always find somebody better. So there's no sense in, comparing yourself to other people like that. So I think it's really important.
So did you develop a love for the sport itself,
I did.
or was it
Yeah.
about the winning for you?
For me, it was really, it really was about the self-improvement and I actually kind of liked going to practices more than I like going to races. Races were, there's extensive travel involved, and only a couple of races that really make up an entire weekend. Which I had fun doing that, but, I really just kind of I liked the practice. It was good to get better and feel accomplished. It just kind of became a way of life for me, really. The effort, the team, the camaraderie, the friendships that are, bonded, through going through something like that, as tough of a sport as rowing is, it's really helpful. So.
Did you participate in the sport through college?
I did.
Did you?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. And even afterwards, I coached a high school team for a bit, for about 5 years.
Yeah. Are you still involved in it?
Not anymore. Not that I would never be, but it's, I have a couple kids now and a family. And so it's just time is a little bit precious right at the moment, but I see myself getting back into it at some point.
Yeah, it sounds like it's something pretty meaningful to your life there.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's not the only thing in your life. Well, tell us. Let's see, where do I want to go here? Well, tell us about how it is that you find your purpose and meaning. What gets you up in the morning?
Yeah. So when Scott and I started our company, we really wanted it to be something that was values driven, and that we could provide for other people. So, every day when we think about what we want the company we want it to grow and where we want it to be, is, we want it to serve other people and provide meaningful, to improve lives through real estate is our mission. And, we want to look for at any angle, at any time, to help carry out our mission, whether that's, helping an employee go back to college and get higher education, or helping somebody who possesses our values to really help them succeed in their position maybe taking on somebody who's a little less experienced in something and helping them become more accomplished. Whatever it might be, that's what we're all about. We're not all about, profit's important for our investors, but we're really a values-driven organization. We have defined corporate values, and we every week we ask ourselves on a team on our sync calls, our company-wide meeting. We ask ourselves how we've improved the lives through others, other people's lives through real estate, and it's a top-level focus for what we do because that's why we exist, and so that's very important to us on the day-to-day.
Where did this emphasis on values of helping others, where did that start in your life?
So I think for Scott, it started in the military. He's got a focus on, serving others, serving our country. For me, it started with good coaches and good teachers, and ultimately my parents putting me through schools that were the best in my area, so that I could get a good education. And just having good mentors has always influenced me to give back. And I think that's really what set the tone for it.
Well, you had talked about the importance of losing, at least in terms of the rowing sport. And can you share with us a time in your life that was a major setback and a major disappointment, and how did you get through that, and what lessons did you learn from that?
A lot of setbacks in real estate. A lot of setbacks in rowing. I would probably say, a more recent example is, we had a property that was wiped out by a tornado. And, it was, we're in the time of COVID, or COVID is sunsetting, or people are getting back to work now, however you want to classify it. But, we bought an RV park, and it was in the Permian Basin, which is in West Texas, which relies on oil. And earlier this year, we're in 2020, March of 2020, Saudi Arabia and Russia got into a fight at OPEC, which means that they started dumping inventory of oil onto the market, which sent our occupancy of our park down. And our investors, are obviously concerned because we're losing customers, or we're losing our clients, and therefore losing the revenue. And that happened. And then coronavirus started hitting the United States, and that was starting to send demand down because people weren't traveling, airplanes weren't flying. And then that Friday, we got completely destroyed by an F1 tornado, all in the same week.
Wow.
So we had a price war with Saudi Arabia and Russia. We had a coronavirus, and we had a tornado. And I think the way it was handled, first of all, it not only was handled in the present well, but it was prepared for well with insurance, prepared for well with how we positioned the asset. We bought it all cash. We didn't put any loan on it because we knew it was susceptible to oil and dependent on oil. And just the way we stood it up, we set ourselves up for big hits. I mean, we had 3 big hits within 2 weeks. And we completely rebuilt the park. We restored it to exactly how it was within about 4 weeks. And the park is almost 100%, fully occupied. We have tenants, all the tenants have come back, and we've leased up the park. So that was a massive setback. And, I think, learning to lose, you know what it's like to be behind, and you know what it's like to be down, but you also know, the mind of a champion to, go back to practice and work to self-improve and get better and get back up on your feet. So I think that was really a huge lesson for us. Not a huge lesson, but a huge challenge that came up, that having a good team and having more than just a couple of people in your group, and being able to, deploy and, get right back up, I think was important. And the other thing that we did was, we know that, bad news doesn't get better with age. So the more honest you can be about something, and the more upfront you can be about something, people will appreciate that. So we immediately told our investors what was going on within minutes of things happening. And we told them not only what was going on, but what the plan was, that we were going to have people visit the site. We were going to have boots on the ground within 12 hours. And that, we had contractors lined up, electricians. We had, I think, 6 or 7 electricians and plumbers and everybody coming to the site, because our main priority was the safety of our tenants, to make sure they were all accounted for. But then it was to get the park operable again after, accommodating their food and shelter and getting things back in line again. So that was a big setback that we overcame. For
sure. No doubt about that. For those just tuning in, my guest today is Ryan Gibson, the Chief Investment Officer and co-founder of Spartan Investment Group. And Ryan was just sharing with us a major setback in his real estate investing, a triple hit on their mobile home park. Well, I'm glad that in the end that certainly did turn out to be good, because, like you said, you had taken the steps to be sure that no matter what happened, you could come back from that. So good planning there. Ryan, as you look back on your life and you look back to 10, 20 years ago and look at your life now, how have you changed psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually? And what accounts for those changes in your life?
Changing, a lot less emotional, a bit more understanding of kind of what my personality is and sort of how to identify with those weaknesses. One thing I did about 10 years ago when I was in management, I got trained on, I was in airline management. I got trained on the Myers-Briggs and was tested. So I got the, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but you can even go to 16personalities.com and you really did a deep dive, probably about a week long, not just a quick study or a quick analysis. We did a week-long evaluation of kind of who you were and identifying those strengths and weaknesses, so to speak, and seeing kind of where you end up on the scale. For example, I know that I'm very extroverted and I like to talk a lot and I like to engage with people, and that's what gets me energy. But I also know that I do have an introverted side. And so, for the example, the study kind of let me know that, hey, you got some introverted to you and you got some extroverted to you. So you have to be aware that people are going to be used to you talking a lot. And then when you get quiet, they're going to think that something's wrong because you're not talking. So, that's I think some good wisdom to go, okay, I can be aware of that. That can really help me, kind of overcome, different personalities. The other thing it taught me is that everybody has, everybody kind of classifies into one of these buckets, right? There's a personality for everybody. And by identifying their personality, you can kind of figure out how to communicate and work with that person. So I think just being aware that, people are not like you and there's different ways of communicating through that personality test really helped me. And we do that at Spartan now too. We call them baseball cards. We actually have a kind of like, you get your picture and your name and we identify your personality so we can all read about each other, so we can understand how to sort of work together in the most efficient way we can, respecting each other's differences. It's a big deal to us.
So in going through that and discovering, or at least affirming what your personality was, what came out of that in terms of you recognize what are your core strengths?
So perceiving is one of the biggest strengths, I think, which is ideas. And being able to, be entrepreneurial and come up with a really good idea, and that fixes the organization or brings a lot of, good stuff. The other thing is extroverted, good at relationships, talking to people, valuing those relationships. I think those are probably the two things that I really took away.
And I expect you were probably utilizing those core assets even before the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
But having that affirmed, did it help you to actually be more conscious about employing those?
It did. And it did in two different ways. So like the perceiving, the idea, it kind of made me recognize that while all these ideas are great, it also reminded me that you tend to have a lot of ideas. And so if you don't implement them or you don't follow up with them, you're just creating all these ideas. And then that could be a weakness because you're not following up. So to find somebody to work with or partner with that is not perceiving necessarily. And the opposite of the P is a J, which is judging. And so Scott is my business partner is a J. So while I have the ideas, he's the executioner. So he's a very, hey, what ones are we going to do? Which ones are we not going to do? And I think recognizing that in business has helped us understand, like, I'm going to be the idea guy and you're going to be the slow down, let's just take the 3 ideas that you suggested, a week ago and let's vet those out before we move on to these new ones. Right. And slowing it down and really making sure we're thoughtful and methodical about what we're planning to do. Yeah, it's been really helpful. And then the extroverted, obviously my job mostly is sales. Extroverted is good because I enjoy talking with people. One thing that I've been working on is listening more. Obviously when you talk a lot, you have a tendency not to listen as much. So that's been something that sort of gave me that insight, that, hey, you should be asking people questions and then listening to what they say and really engaging in them. And that makes it, makes the relationship a lot better than just you talking the whole time.
Yeah. So an interesting journey there. So what is the one biggest takeaway you have learned from those last 10, 20 years of your life?
I would probably say, just making sure that you understand what your weaknesses are and your strengths are. And I encourage everybody, to get that test done. 16personalities.com is a test you can take and learn about yourself, because if you don't do that, then you really don't know where to improve. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is just surround yourself with people that are supportive of what you're trying to do. I have a partner that, likes these types of tests and encourages people to do them. And focuses on, cares about what other people's personalities are so they can work in the most efficient way possible. I think that would probably be a big takeaway.
Well, Ryan, we are running out of time here. Before I go to my last question here, tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. My email is Ryan, R-Y-A-N, at Spartan-investors.com. And that's also our website, Spartan-investors.com.
Okay. Well, my last question that I ask all of my first-time guests is, when you come to the end of this life's journey, how do you want your epitaph to read?
Yeah, so it used to be get out in front and stay there. I don't really like that as much. That's kind of a rowing thing. But I would probably say, think about your, 1 year, 5 year, and lifelong legacy that you want to leave to people. And the lifelong legacy should be full of mentorship, coaching, and the wisdom, is something that you want to leave your kids. I think is probably the thing I'd leave.
Well, it sounds like you certainly structured your life to live that to its fullest and to live a legacy having worth lived. It has been a pleasure having you, Ryan. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.